Hey everybody, welcome back to Burner Tuner. It's time for another scooter episode. Today, we're talking exhaust. Yes, you heard it right. I am getting rid of the new RB Works chamber I had recently put on this scooter in favor of a period correct Daytona chamber. And the reason I'm doing this is, one, this thing sits a little bit too low for my liking with the 8-inch wheels, and I have scraped it a little bit. It's not horrible, the exhaust still works great, but I just don't want to damage it past the point of no return. And actually another forum member from the Ginsky forums has decided to pick this up for me, so it's going to live on somebody else's bike. The reason I'm switching to the Daytona chamber is, one, it tucks a lot tighter up against the body, and it is absolutely period correct. This is what guys would have been running on their scooters back in the day when these scooters were in their prime. So before we get rid of this RB Works chamber, let's do one last sound check and enjoy the sound of this really great chamber. Definitely gonna miss this chamber. This thing sounds awesome, and the power I got from it was pretty good. Remember, I was getting, man, about 40 on the stock bore with these 8-inch wheels, which is pretty good. But that Daytona is definitely gonna be what I want for the style I'm going for. Now, before this goes on the bike, there are a few things I'd like to do to try to refinish this. I want to get the silencer looking good. I'd like to redo the paint on here, and most importantly, I want to see if I can get this dent out of the bottom of the chamber. Alright, so I've got my little end plates here. I just cut these out of some steel bar stock and then shoved about an 1/8-inch thick rubber gasket between each side and bolted them down tight. This one I stuck an air valve in, and it wouldn't really thread in, so I hit it with some JB weld and it seems to be holding air okay. So what I'm going to do is pressurize this thing and see if I can find any leaks on it. Really, I want to see if these flanges leak or if there's any pinholes in the pipe before we go hitting it with that torch. So let's do that. So right away, I'm actually already seeing a pinhole leak in here. Let me turn up the air pressure here so you can see it. You guys see that? Got a leak right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark that and hit a tap on this thing and see if I can close up that hole real quick before I get to heating this thing up. Well, it looks like it might have just been some paint blocking that hole, because I just barely hit it with my Dremel and it blew a hole right through that. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get a tack on there and try to close that up real quick. Okay, that took entirely too long, but I made a little patch panel here, and it's holding air. Now, I'm by no means a fabricator. You know what they say, a grinder and paint make me a horrible tradesman. So I think it's gonna work. What I'm gonna do now is get this, strip off the paint, and then we're gonna get the torch out, get the compressor out, air this thing up, and see what we can do. All right, so took a little bit of time in the little grinder here, but we got all the paint off. Now what I'm going to do is get this thing in the vise, put some air on it, and start heating it up with that torch and see what happens. All right, we got this thing on here. I'm going to go ahead and start to pressurize it. All right, so we tried to get this thing to work at about 60 PSI for a while, just hitting it with this propane torch, and it wasn't really working, so I decided to crank the pressure all the way up to about the max my little compressor can do, which is 100 PSI, and this is where the magic starts to happen. Check this out. All right, I think we're gonna call that one good. All right, this is still piping hot, but I want you to see, guys, how good this worked. I am pretty stoked on that. I mean, it's not perfect, but again, this is like a 30-year-old pipe. So to get this kind of result, I mean, I'm ecstatic. I've got one more to do underneath here. So we'll flip the pipe over, get that started. I'm gonna let this cool off for a second. All right, well, I think this has actually turned out pretty damn good. Again, this is my first time trying anything like this, and I'm just using a little 100 PSI 5-gallon compressor and a propane torch. So I think maybe with some MAP gas and a little bit higher pressure, you might have an easier time, but this worked fine. So I'm gonna let this thing cool off. One thing I don't know is how I'm gonna relieve the pressure in this. I should have put in like a valve somewhere. I think what I'll do is probably just start to crack these nuts loose and let the pressure come off that way. All right, so the pipe's all prepared. Got the dents out, got it patched up, cleaned up, hit it with some prep spray to get any dirt, grease, wax, all that off of it. And today, we're actually gonna be powder coating this. And I learned my technique from Vice Grip Garage, so let's go. This is a very advanced technique, so don't do this if you're not a professional. All right, everybody, well, the paint is dry. We've got the chamber all cleaned up, polished the canister, got rid of those dents, and even got my little patch down here on the bottom. I am by no means a professional, but I think I did a pretty good job here. Well, let's hear it on the bike. All right, guys, so the Daytona chamber is on. This thing is looking great. I like the way this one tucks up against the body more, unlike the RB Works, which is a lot more prone to scraping anytime I had a little bit of lean angle. So I think that'll be good, and maybe I won't destroy this chamber. Now, let's get this thing started, see how it sounds. It sounds pretty good. We'll have to get this thing out on the street and do a quick rip. All right, guys, well, I'm pretty happy with how this chamber turned out. Just goes to show with a few bucks, a little bit of ingenuity, and a compressor and a torch, you can get these chambers looking pretty sweet, and I think this one turned out really, really good. So if you do have one at home that is beat up, dented up, hopefully you learned something in this video and you can make it work for you. As always, if you like these videos, please hit the thumbs up button. It really does help us grow our channel. And stay tuned for the next one. We got a lot of great things coming down the pipeline, so we'll see you then. Peace.